of Verona are busy. Abraham and Balthazar of the Monticus enter. Immediately, the two Capulet servants, Samson and Gregory, spotted them. Samson bicked them as if it was an insult.
How dare you bite a Tom us?
Samson challenges them into a brawl and the fight breaks out.
A crutch, a crutch. Why call for a sword?
Let us not stick a bridge.
Down with the Monticus!
Down with the Capulet!
The fight immediately turns into a riot between the Capulet and the Monticus. The prince threatens anyone who disturbs the peace again.
If you ever disturb our street again, your life shall be pay our forfeit again of the peace.
Romeo enters after the scene and tells his friend Benvolio that he wants nothing to do with violence. He also admits to being lovesick because the woman he loves, Rosalind, doesn't want to know him. Paris visits Lord Capulet, asking to marry his daughter Juliet. We learn she's not quite 14 years old, and Capulet tells Paris to wait 2 more years. Nevertheless, Capulet invites Paris to a mass ball or party at their house. Immediately, Lord Capulet sent his servant Peter to find the people in the invitation card. However, Peter cannot seem to read. As Peter was walking, he asked 2 strangers to help him, which turned out to be Romeo and Benvolio. As Romeo was reading, they found out that Rosalind was also invited. Benvolio encourages him to go so that he can forget about Rosalind. Meanwhile, Lady Capulet tells Juliet that Paris wants to marry her. Juliet's nurse is very excited, but Juliet hadn't thought about marriage yet. It is now Sunday and the servants of the Capulet house are preparing for the masked ball. Several party-goers, among them Romeo, Benvolio, and Mercutio, are outside Capulet's house. While they were walking, Mercutio speaks about Clean Map and how she delivers dreams to people in their sleep. Preparations are being made for Capulet's party, and the guests arrive, followed by lots of dancing and music. Romeo sees Juliet for the first time from a distance and is overwhelmed by her beauty. Unfortunately, Romeo is spotted by Tybalt, who wants to kill Romeo for sneaking in uninvited, but Capulet forcefully stops him. Tybalt is angered by this and vows revenge against Romeo. Romeo approaches Juliet. They talk and then Romeo kisses Juliet's hand. They talk about their likings and realize they have so much in common. Unfortunately, Juliet's nurse interrupts and took Juliet with her. Later, Romeo found out that Juliet is a Capulet, much to his dismay.
What? The Capulet? My only love is my foe.
Meanwhile, Juliet asks about Romeo. Juliet finds out that Romeo is a Montague.
What? A Montagus?
Later, Romeo manages to hide from his friends outside Capulet's orchard and refuses to join them. Not knowing Romeo is there, Juliet is in her balcony speaking about Romeo lovingly, but laments the fact that he's a Montague. Romeo is in the orchard and sees Juliet high on her balcony. Romeo lets Juliet know he is there. Juliet is shocked, but the 2 of them engage in a loving conversation. They hastily arrange to marry, again interrupted by the nurse. It is now early on Monday morning and Romeo goes to see his friend Friar Lawrence. When Lawrence last saw Romeo, he was lovesick about Rosalind, and Lawrence is pleased to see the change in him, until he realizes that Romeo wants to marry some new girl. Friar Lawrence agrees to marry Romeo to Juliet in the hope that the union will bring peace to the warring families. Later, Romeo is enjoying time with his friends, Mercutio teases Benvolio and Romeo. The nurse arrives and Mercutio teases her mercilessly, provoking her anger. Romeo tells the nurse to inform Juliet that she should go to Friar Lawrence's that afternoon to be married. Juliet anxiously awaits the nurse's return. When she does come back, she takes a long time to reveal the message. Juliet finally arrives and the two of them got married. It is only 1 hour after the marriage. Benvolio and Mercutio talk in Verona streets. Benvolio is trying to persuade Mercutio to go indoors as it is very hot and he fears a brawl if they come across the Capulets. Typically, Mercutio rejects this idea and teases Benvolio. Tybalt enters. He and Mercutio have a heated discussion. Romeo enters. Tybalt hands out insults to Romeo, who does not take the bait. Instead, Mercutio fights Tybalt and is killed. Tybalt strikes a fatal blow as Romeo moves between them. Grief-stricken, feeling guilty and seeking revenge, Romeo kills Tybalt. Benvolio and Romeo mourned over their dead friend until the prince arrives. The prince unfortunately banishes Romeo from Verona. Meanwhile, Juliet has no idea what has gone on and sits at home looking forward to her wedding night. The nurse enters crying, shouting Romeo's name and that someone has died. Juliet is shocked and assumes it is Romeo, but soon discovers it is Tybalt and that Romeo will kill him. At first, she criticizes Romeo, then she defends him to the nurse. The nurse agrees to find Romeo, who returned to Friar Lawrence's cell, where Romeo is understandably distraught by events. Lawrence tries to make him see sense, but Romeo won't hear it. The nurse enters and tells Romeo that Juliet is constantly crying. Romeo couldn't take it and takes the knife and offers to stab himself to remove his name. Friar Lawrence stops him and becomes angry. Lawrence tells Romeo to visit Juliet as previously arranged, but wants him to make sure he leaves Verona before dawn. Back in the Capulet, Paris visited to repeat his request to marry Juliet. Capulet changes his mind as he thinks it will cheer her up following the death of her cousin. It sets Thursday as the wedding day. It is early on Tuesday morning in Juliet's bedroom. Romeo and Juliet have spent the night together and neither wants to part. Although they realize Romeo must go or risk death if he is captured, Romeo leaves. The Lady Capulet enters and tells Juliet that she will be married to Paris on Thursday, but Juliet refuses. Juliet tries to escape, but lured Capulet becomes very angry and threatens her. Juliet turns to the nurse, but her advice is to marry Paris.
Juliet, realizing she has nowhere else to turn, plans to visit Friar Lawrence for help.